today we have Lana Hansen. She's going to share with us about Many Helping Hands Ministries, and you are watching Live Boldly Ministries podcast. And it's good to have you. My name is Nicki White. I'm your host, and her ministry is located in Irving, Texas. And I'm going to have Lana explain a few things about how she got into homeless ministry. And Lana, why don't you tell us a little bit about how this all came about?
Good morning, Nicki. Yeah, so I grew up in Michigan. I had a loving home. Went to church, and when I was 13, we had some major trauma in our lives. My father died of cancer. I had trauma in my life that no 14-year-old should go through, and I turned away from God. I thought He didn't love me. I started using alcohol and drugs, and went down that path, which brought me to, I was employable because I had to start working at 14 because we needed the income. So I was employable, so I was able to hold a job down. I moved to Dallas, and I started working at a company. I had 16 and a half years there. I was being promoted, but all along I was slowly going downhill. And then I went through a horrible divorce, and which caused me to start using more and more. I was laid off from that company, and I spiraled down to the depths, the deepest depths. I lost my home. So that's how I became homeless.
I can imagine those struggles and that you've gone through. And so what pulled you out of that? And then how did it became apparent to you that you should start something to help other homeless people?
Okay, so I was successful. I had a good job and my home. So when I lost my home, I lost my identity. I lost anything of normalcy around me. I put my stuff in storage, and then I lost the storage. I gave my daughter to my ex-husband because she needed a home to live in, which was all bad choices because I was living in the world. Self-will, hooked on drugs. So I was out there about 5 years and went through a lot of tragedy. Things happen out there. Losing a home, you just, no self-esteem, your shame and guilt, all those things were really eating at me bad. So I, one night, I prayed from my heart for the first time since I was 13. And God rescued me.
That flipped the switch for you.
Flipped the switch.
Yeah.
And I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that God had a plan for me at that moment. It was just the peace that surpassed all understanding. And he put me on firm ground. I actually got arrested, went to jail. God gave me a program. It's called Divert, a drug program, which was what saved my life. I went to a transitional house, and in that transitional house, they spoke life to me. I joined a church. I got baptized. It was the turning point in my life. That place took me to a ministry in downtown Dallas, which was a homeless ministry, and they served like 400 people. And when I walked on the parking lot, there was an outside church. God spoke to me for the first time. And He told me, this is what you're going to do.
He's got a purpose for what you've been through.
A purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
A purpose. He had His hand on me the whole time, even though I was not focused on Him at all. It was all self-will. Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about your ministry and how it kind of started, and now it's morphing into something bigger, right?
Yes.
Yes. And so what is your vision for this, and how?
So we started off, I was going to that soul ministry. My story is when I got clean, I started working at I was actually waitressing because I didn't have a whole lot of self-esteem. I thought I was unemployable. So I had to work on that.
It just seems okay. We've all been there, done that.
Yeah. So I started working there, but I was praying on getting back to the company I had got laid off at. And God brought somebody in my path. Okay. I got my job back, and they bridged my time. So I know God had, Romans says God has plans for me, not to hurt me, right? And he uses all that for his glory. So I started back, and I moved to Irving. When I moved to Irving, I was still doing the ministry in downtown Dallas. And I would do it every Sunday morning. I'd get up at 6 o'clock, and I'd go down there, and I'd serve, and then I would go to church after. And I would wear my shirt. Well, my pastor handed me the keys to the van of the church and said, bring him to church. So that's how we started the ministry in Irving.
That's so awesome.
We started, inviting the homeless to our
to your church.
To our church, yes. The van broke down. God had plans for me to start something in Irving. So when the van broke down, I couldn't bring people from downtown. We started reaching out in Irving to other churches, and we have formed. All denominations have come together to serve Many Helping Hands. We formed in December of 2012 was our very first event, and we haven't missed an event since. And then we formed our nonprofit in 2014. 20 churches and organizations worked together to serve, and we started with a Thursday night meal. We haven't missed a Thursday since June of 2013, through COVID, Christmas, Thanksgiving.
Who all provides that?
So I have small groups from different churches.
Oh, right.
So the food comes prepared enough. Before COVID, we were serving 120 people or so. After COVID, it's about 65 to 75 a week. We do Bible study, haircuts. We had a counselor coming for a while. We're hoping to get that back. We have Parkland Bus, which is a bus that pulls up in the parking lot and provides free health care. We set up and tear down. Yeah, we set up and tear down every week. I prayed for people, like-minded people, because I didn't know where to start, and so God sent me doers, and most of my volunteers have been there since then.
Yeah. Got to be thankful for the people who are the doers.
Right.
Some people are ideas people, and some people are more hands-on. I mean, people are gifted in different ways, and you need them all, but that's awesome.
Absolutely.
If someone wanted to start a similar ministry in their town, I mean, some towns have something going, and maybe you don't know how to get linked with that, but there are things in a lot of towns. But there are places like Irving that didn't have anything, and how would you tell them to go about getting something like that put together?
So I kind of have to back up a little bit and say that God gave me a vision for Irving, because there was no hot meals, there were no services, there were no places that showed them love. When I was on the street, I was lonely, lost, no love, nobody called me by name, nobody hugged me. And so he gave me this vision to do that, right? To speak life into people, like people spoke into me once I got in the transitional house. So he gave me that purpose, and I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that's what I was supposed to do. So if God gives you a little spark in your spirit that you're supposed to do something, be obedient. Pray about it. Pray about it. Find like-minded people. Start just envisioning what that looks like, and just ask for God's guidance. I was once told by a mentor of mine that said, if it's easy, if it just kind of flows, it's God. If you're hitting brick walls, it's not. So just pray for that. And if because there's a lot of discouragement when you first start a ministry, right? So you have to just be obedient and just suit up and show up no matter what.
Right. So why don't you tell our viewers how they can either get a hold of you, or how they can help in contributing to your ministry, or, can they contact you by email, or?
Yes, I'd like to go back again to, so the vision that God gave me for Irving was a day center. And we would try to start several times, try to lease buildings. No one wanted to lease to us. A lot of brick walls, which we knew was the timing, right? Wasn't God's. God gave us that vision, And we opened a day center last July. We've been open for almost a year.
Oh, that's awesome.
The day center provides showers and laundry, a place for them to eat lunch. They can nap, get out of the heat or the cold. We've been providing inclement weather shelter for them for 9 years. Excuse me. For 9 years, we've been providing shelter to them, trying to speak life into them like somebody spoke life into me. And so we're getting Bible studies where you're looking for people to disciple them and mentor them, okay? And so we could always use volunteers. We have daytime hours, right? We have daytime hours at the day center. We're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 to 2 right now. We'd like to expand that in the future. We're also looking to build a building that we can expand our services. So, we're doing a lot of raising money for building fund and things like that. But we could always use volunteers, prayer partners. I met somebody the other day that says, I love to do laundry. Well, if you love to do laundry, you can help, right?
But what about someone that's in Ohio or
Yes,
Alabama or something?
Absolutely, yes.
Like that, how would they start something?
Yes. So to support the ministry, you could go to, I think you asked that question, right? To support the ministry. So if you're in a different city and there's no services in your area, just reach out to some people, some other churches, or because in our little town, I had to reach out. We had a small church. Reach out to people. You'll find people that God's given that vision to as well. And then when you work together, because in our city in Irving, the nonprofits work together. We try not to duplicate services. So, identify the need, and if there's a need of the vision that God gave you, step out on faith, right? You want to get to your local government, your city councilman, things like that. Try to get some support from the city, but also all the nonprofit other churches. And the way to support Many Helping Hands is we have our website is manyhelpinghands.org.
It's easy. Which
we have a donate button on there if you want to sow into the ministry. You could reach me at lana@manyhelpinghands.org. We participate in Giving Tuesday and North Texas Giving Day. So we're on Facebook. We're Many Helping Hands Ministry on Facebook. So you can support us that way. We post a lot of videos. We post a lot of pictures. So you can kind of see what we're doing. It might give you ideas for your city. But we would just love people to join us and get us to that next level, because I know that for me, being on the street, I was lost, didn't want to live, didn't want to die, and I didn't think there was any hope for me. I was hopeless. If we could just identify what a need is for each individual person, right, and then work towards that goal. We have very little low-income housing available. There's not a solution right now for homelessness, and we really want to join together with other nonprofits and end homelessness. These people don't deserve to live on the street. They've gone to our schools. They've graduated from our schools. And if each one of us mentored one or two people, can you imagine what this world would be? This world would be great. So my vision is that we all find our niche, whether it's organization, whether it's laundry, whatever it is, find our niche.
Excellent. And so that you said that there's a link for someone if they want to contribute to your ministry. And if they want to ask questions, they can go to manyhelpinghands.org.
Or they can email me at lana@manyhelpinghands.org.
Do you have someone else that answers the same email?
I do,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, okay, great. That's awesome. So I think one of the things that interested me about your story is being homeless and maybe the persona or the misconceptions that people have of a homeless person. Because I think sometimes people just have this view of what they think all homeless people are. And it's not always that story.
That's it.
I mean, in Boise, our rescue mission has a women's shelter, and there's kids there. You've got some teenage boy that needs size 15 pair of basketball shoes, they take them to school and that kind of thing, and they reach out to the women and children. And I think people think of kids in a shelter as being little tiny kids, and they donate these little bitty shoes. It's like, what about the teens? They don't want to look different. They want a new backpack. They don't want a used backpack. I think there's some things that we could do if our ideas were better about, if we were to go out and reach out and work with the homeless, we would get a different perspective on what those people are.
Absolutely. So my story was addiction, but it was also trauma, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder. With COVID, a lot of people lost their jobs and they just lost their way. So we had people on the streets that have had fires at their house and they ended up homeless. They didn't have insurance.
Yeah.
Or a divorce. That happens a lot. Has the children and she's never worked. And so there's just so many aspects. And you think about mental illness being on the street. When I went to the street, I was addicted, but I didn't have mental illness. But then the depression, just living and having to survive on the street causes mental illness.
And what about veterans?
Veterans.
Veterans is a big
yes
thing in our homeless population. Yeah.
There is so many levels of homelessness that people don't see.
Yeah.
You don't see. Our people, they have showers, we give them clothes. They don't look homeless when they're walking around the city, but they have no place to lay their head. They can't rest because people steal their stuff or they get robbed or whatever. It's not easy out there. It's very, very hopeless. Hopeless. So, we like to speak life into them. We will, if they get a job, we'll give them 5 bus passes to get to the job. We'll buy them work boots. We'll, everything that we can to give them the step up, right? If they want to go.
Do you take in donations?
We do. We take in donations. We have a clothes closet at our day center, and we also have a clothes closet at our Thursday night meal. We get people that either come out of relationships or the hospital with no shoes on, or we try to give new shoes because they walk all over the city.
Yeah.
We have a lot of rules about you can't get a pair of shoes every week. We have rules around that, but we don't want anybody to have to walk around with bad shoes on or clothing.
Our shelter, socks are a big thing.
Socks and underwear.
It's like people, they will give leftover clothes like sweaters and jeans and stuff, but no one wants to give used socks, so they don't get socks and underwear, and then, it's a big need.
Yeah, so Bamba socks, we work with them and we get Bamba socks, which is such a blessing.
Yeah.
We give out socks and underwear. We do about 35, 40 showers a week, and we give every one of them good socks and clean socks and underwear when they get out of the shower. We'll give them jeans or something, to wash their clothes while they're in the shower. But we do work with Bamba socks, and we get that. So we have 2 events a year. We have a spring event and a winter event, because they can't carry their clothes from season to season, right, on the street. So our spring event's coming up, where we collect gently used clothes for even children in the neighborhood. It's a community event, and we give out free clothes, and that's May 20th here in Irving. So if anybody lives in this area and wants to donate clothes or donate money for us to go buy clothes for this event, we had already talked about where they could donate. We need people to volunteer for that, right? And so we have it every winter and every spring. So even the families in the neighborhood that are low income can come get clothes for their family every year, which is really, really a blessing.
Awesome. Yeah. And people do coat drives and stuff. I know, for kids to get coats for school. And backpacks.
Yes.
Backpacks are school supplies and backpacks. That's something that's...
Yeah, luckily we don't have many children on the streets in Irving, or they live in motels. So we work with other nonprofits. We get a lot of calls about that, of financial aid and stuff. Right now we're not doing that. There'll be a need, that we'll help out with if there's nobody else. But we work really well with other nonprofits. So the schools, the drives for school supplies, the backpacks, if they get extra, they share with us. If we get extra, we share with them.
Great.
you know, we're in it to provide services into our community. And if my niche isn't children, if my focus isn't children, I know whose is. And so we're trying to meet all the needs, and just show God's love to people that need love.
Have you worked with the police department at all?
Absolutely. Yes, the Irving Police Department has been partnering with, especially during inclement weather. If they find anybody on the street with 32 degrees or below, they would call us. In the very beginning, we put them into motels. Several years ago, we were able to start putting them into churches. Bear Creek Church opened the doors for us. And then this last 2 years, the Christ Church opened an inclement weather shelter. So it's a pop-up shelter, only when it's 32 degrees or below. We have transportation teams that go out and pick people up, and it's pretty amazing. The Irving Police Department also has a homeless officers, and they come to our day center. They're helping us try to get the people ready for housing and getting the documents. And we have a mental health task force that comes every Thursday. The officer comes every Thursday. He's the one that gets the IDs. We pay for the IDs, but he get online and order the IDs for them. Because when you're homeless, if you lose your ID, you can't work.
Yeah.
And so how do you get a step up?
You need a phone a lot of times.
You need a phone.
Because I know the refugees, that's a big thing. They can't get a job if they don't have a phone.
Right.
And a lot of people watching this podcast aren't from Texas.
Right.
So they're from all over the place. And so, some maybe bigger cities might have something, but a lot of the smaller, I don't know how big Irving is, but don't have as much set up in the smaller communities.
Exactly. So my story is, when I told you I had that 16 years and I got laid off and my time got bridged, I just recently was laid off from that position, which is great. And so we're working together, going to other nonprofits, because we don't want to duplicate and we don't want to make the same mistakes, right? So if you're in a city and there's a big city next to you and there's somebody doing what you're doing, go visit them, go volunteer there. That's one thing I'm going to be doing. I don't want to start from scratch to open up.
Utilize some of their resources.
Absolutely. We don't want to duplicate. So if I can send my people to Dallas or Fort Worth, or if they, so we're going to do that. So that's what I would suggest if you're in a city that you're in a smaller city, but there's a homeless problem or whatever the issue that God's put in your spirit. Go find a ministry that's doing that. And learn from them, get them to mentor you. I'm big on mentorship and, a life team that has like-minded
Well, and that's
thoughts.
what holds you true and holds you to the path. I have a couple relatives that have been in and out of shelters. You said you just went one time and you were all, they're like in and out, a lot. And that's hard for their parents and hard, it's just tough.
It's a hard life, very hard life.
Yeah. That's great. That's awesome. Okay. So we talked about how they could contact you and how they could look up Helping Hands Ministry, and you need volunteers if you're local. If you're local to Texas, you need volunteers, and and even if you just could volunteer one day a week.
Absolutely.
Or,
we have people that can cook meals, they can go serve meals, they can help in the showers and laundry, set up and tear down on Thursday night because people work.
With COVID, were there regulations where you couldn't serve meals?
So with COVID, we just had to move outside. The church closed. We had to move outside, but we never stopped serving meals. I also reached out to the city to get a porta potty and hand washing stations in the city, so our people had a place to go to the bathroom, because they had no place to go anywhere to get out of the elements and to use the restroom and wash their hands. And it was real big, right? You had to wash your hands all the time with COVID. If we found out one of our people had COVID, we put them in a motel for 2 weeks so they wouldn't have to be sick on the street.
Spreading it more.
Yeah, spreading it more. Plus, with the fever, who wants to wander around a city with no place to lay down?
Yeah.
So we've done that. We try to help in any way we can. So COVID was a challenge, but it really just brought our ministry closer, and we just ministered to people more and gave them hope.
Yeah.
give them hope. Yeah.
That's excellent. You know, this is something I have a real burden for. My daughter, one of my daughters, worked in our homeless shelter as a grant writer for quite a while, and I just feel burdened for that. And so I'm so glad that we were able to talk to you. This gets people thinking, and I think that's a great thing because they might not even have thought of helping with that.
Well, God's plan is perfect for all of our lives, and we all have a purpose. If God can use me, this broken vessel, and save me and put me on firm ground and give me a vision, just listen to that, because God can use anybody. Thank you.
Amen. We're so thankful to have Lana here with Many Helping Hands Ministries, and for you to join us at Live Boldly Ministries podcast. And we will see you next time. And Lord bless.
God bless. Thank you.